Like to introduce. So, would you like to introduce yourself? So, would you like to introduce?
You'd like what?
Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Oh, me introduce myself? Yes. So my name is Allison Grizzle. I was a teacher in Alabama. I taught high school mathematics for 14 years. I was Alabama's Teacher of the Year. I then went and worked for the State Department of Education, which is a centralized area that sort of monitors all of the different schools in the state and all the school districts in the state. I did that for 3 years, and then I ended up moving to the private sector and have been in running my own business for the last 4 years.
Yeah, so that means you have had a great experience as a teacher.
Yeah, so I had a great experience as a teacher, and I'm having a great experience in the business world. So I have two completely different lenses.
Yeah, definitely. Successful teacher and a successful businesswoman. Yeah. So I would like to ask all my students to introduce themselves. At the same time, they can ask you some questions regarding your region and maybe about your personal things also they are going to ask. Because last time when you sent us an inspirational video, actually I requested all the teachers across the globe to send the videos to inspire my students. But your video is one such video. I like it so much because you have taken your time to inspire my students. So by giving so many narrations, I'm really thankful to you for such a wonderful video. And that too, in that video you have included one thing that I have not dyed my hair, but because of time being, I made the video for you. So that's really a great thing. A community teacher only can do that. Yeah, so I'm really thankful to you for such an inspirational video. Listen, we have a special invitee today, and I have just briefed you about his greatness. And his name is Ganapati, and he's a teacher of my regional language as well as a great familiar icon in my region for his ballads. And he takes social themes and sing in different platforms, schools and many other places, just to inspire the people, inspire the children on many social issues. So here we have Ganapati. And sir, Ganapati, are you there, sir? Ganapati Garu, welcome to Zoom class,
Namaskaram.
sir. So here is our chief guest, Alison is there, and she is from Alabama, United States of America.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So before I ask my students to introduce themselves, so Ganapati Garu, would you like to sing one song for us, or would you like to sing little later of the session? మీరు ఈ సాంగ్ ని మొదటగా మొదలు పెడతారు లేకపోతే తర్వాత మీరు పాడతారు?
కాసేపు ఆగినాక పాడతాను.
ఓకే సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్, థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. Now let me ask my students to introduce themselves. Mr. Gattu, try to introduce yourself.
Okay, sir. Hi, ma'am. My name is Gattu Jagdish. My hobbies are reading books, playing games, and watching TV. My future ambition is to become an army person.
Okay. So next participant, yes, Niraja, try to introduce yourself.
Hello, ma'am. I am Niraja. I'm a student at ZPHS High School.
My hobbies are playing games and watching TV. My future ambition is to become a nurse.
So students, you have to remember one thing. We have another guest, and whose name is Ganapad sir, and he is a Telugu teacher. So try to wish him as well. So Lohita, it's your turn now.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Lohita Girja. I study in 7th grade. My hobbies are reading books, playing games, dance, and watching TV. My life ambition is to become an English teacher.
Okay. Next, Kaushik. So Kaushik, I think your voice is not audible. Maybe you have muted yourself, I think. Can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute yourself? So meanwhile, let us go to the next participant, Nagalakshmi. Try to introduce yourself.
Yes, sir. Hello, ma'am. My name is Nagalakshmi. I am studying in 7th grade. My hobbies are reading books and playing games. My future ambition is to become an English teacher.
Okay, next, Varshita. Varshita, Vedasri, Sai Nagastri, you all need to turn your cameras on so that our guests can see you. Yeah, Varshita, start your introduction.
Yes. Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir. My name is Vashita. I'm studying 9th grade. My hobbies are reading books and playing games. My future ambition is to become an engineer.
The next, Veda.
Hello, ma'am, and hello, sir. My name is Vedasri. I'm studying in 9th grade. My hobbies are reading books and playing games. My life ambition is to become a doctor.
So Sai Nagastri. Sai Nagastri.
Yes, sir. Hi, ma'am. My name is Sai Nagasri. I'm studying 6th grade. I'm student at ZPH High School. My hobbies are playing games and watching TV.
Okay, thank you. Kaushik, have you fixed your audio issues? I think it seems that you have not yet fixed your audio issues, and so meantime, I request all the participants to get ready with your questions so that our guest Alison will answer to your question. So I will start with Gattu Jagdish.
Yes, sir. What are some interesting facts about the states of Alabama?
So if I heard the question right, it was what are some interesting vegetable dishes in Alabama? Is that right?
No, ma'am.
Oh.
What are some interesting facts about the state of Alabama?
Interesting facts about the state of Alabama. Excellent. So this is my son. He wants to see everybody. Okay, he ran away. So facts about the state of Alabama. Well, in the north, I live in Birmingham, so I am in the middle of the state. And the north of the state, there's a city called Huntsville, which is known for its rocket scientists and known for its space program. And so I heard someone that wanted to be an engineer. That would be a wonderful place to think about is Huntsville. I live in Birmingham, and Birmingham is known for its medical community. We have a huge teaching hospital, which is the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And actually, my two neighbors are of Indian descent. Both of their parents came over from India to be doctors. And so I heard one of you was going to be a doctor. So Birmingham is a wonderful place for you to come. My neighbors, one of them is a pediatric neurologist, and one of them is a general surgeon. And then one of the neat things in the south of Alabama is where actually you can go down there to go to the beach. And so at the south of Alabama is actually the Gulf of Mexico. And so there's a whole coastline. So that's pretty much interesting in Alabama. Birmingham. Birmingham, Alabama is actually known as sort of the heart of the civil rights movement. And so we had back in the 60s, this is where the Children's March happened. And we have the Civil Rights Institute in the state of Alabama. Next question.
Neeraja, it's your turn.
Could you please share us some details of your current job?
So Neeraja, can you ask one more time clearly?
Could you please share us some details of your current job?
So my current job, is that what you asked? Excellent. Yeah. So I work with companies on, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to say this because some of it might not translate well. Basically, I help companies use people analytics. So we do behavioral testing and cognitive testing, and I help them use those analytics for hiring and for managing communication and team building. So I really tend to work with presidents and CEOs of companies. So people running companies, I work with them and their leadership teams on how to really think about aligning their people with their business strategy. So I really help, basically I help go in and use some of my skills from mathematics and statistics, and use some of my skills from teaching and some of my skills from team building and put all that together into a business.
I'm sure that it requires a lot of intelligence because as you have just briefed us that you have to, I think you have to maintain the relationships between the one and another, and it requires a lot of patience and more than that, a lot of intelligence. So I think that your teaching job might have helped you in doing this job. Do you think that being a teacher, you think that this must have given you some kind of help in doing this present job? So how far the teaching job helpful to you in dealing with
this? Definitely. So what I would say is that this current job took everything that I've done throughout my life and combined it, right? And so with 14 years in the classroom, it was really about learning how to help students overcome different barriers that were keeping them from success, right? And helping them to understand, how do you take something complicated and make it simple so that it doesn't seem like a mountain they can't climb? And so how do you break it down where then bit by bit by bit, they've climbed the mountain, and at the end of the year, they're excited that they've climbed the mountain, right? It's just one little step at a time. So that was my education background. And then that plays a big part in what I do today, because I go into companies with something that seems very, very complicated, and my goal is to break it down. I also have that background in mathematics, and so everything I'm doing is really science and math based. It's sort of the math and science of people to help people better understand their teams. And then while I was teaching, I did a degree in, I have actually several degrees which played a part. I had a master's in math education. I had a doctorate in teacher leadership. I have another master's in instructional leadership. So those things played a part in me understanding what it means for teams to work together and what it means for being a leader. And then when I worked to the State Department of Education, we were really working on, how do you identify what success looks like, and how do you identify what good looks like? I'm going to change rooms. My son is struggling with his morning. And so then from there, all through that, my husband and I were working on building his business. And so his business, we own 7 local community newspapers and a digital agency. And so while I was helping him, I learned a lot about the business world and how to apply all these skills in that business space. And one of the things that I would challenge all of you to do is we've never arrived anywhere, right? Every day is, what do I learn today so that I add one more step and I add one more brick to my knowledge. And the big differentiator, even in business, as I work with business, is who wants to keep learning, right? One of the things that all of you said was, I love to read books, right? And what are you doing to learn each day? Because that will separate you from everybody else. I was in a meeting yesterday with a leader in a company, and he said, I just don't like to read. And that right there told me everything I needed to know, that he is at his limit and he will never move further in the business world, and he will never move beyond the job he has. And the job he has is probably one step higher than he belongs, because he doesn't want to press himself to keep going. And the world changes rapidly. This world right now, 100 years ago, you might have been able to stop learning. But this world changes every day. The technology changes every day, and understanding what's going on changes at such a rapid pace, right? This is, my husband owns a company, and this right here in our kitchen, those are books that have made it off the bookshelf downstairs and up to the kitchen. And the bookshelf downstairs is full, and the bookshelf at the office is full. And at any given moment, he has 4 or 5 books going at a time. Because if you're gonna excel, right, it's what do I do to differentiate myself? And the differentiator is, how am I learning, and how am I investing in myself, and how am I investing in my community on a daily basis? And if I'm investing in myself and I'm investing in others, then there's nothing that's going to stop me from that next level.
So I do agree with you, Alison, because as a teacher and as a professor at any job, I think in order to survive, in order to make ourselves successful, in order to be successful, I think we should be a constant learners. So if we don't learn, if we don't update our knowledge and day basis, and so I think we will be lost in the times. So I do agree with you that, and we need to update ourselves in terms of learning the new technology and new methodology and pedagogy and everything we need to learn in order to make our students good at our subject. I do agree with you, and I have been doing that for a long time, and every day I'm a learner. So learning is something that is part of our job. I do agree with you, and thank you so much for sharing valuable insights about being a successful professional in life. Definitely, these insights will definitely helpful to my students as well as me also. So I would like to ask one of my students to ask the question, and who is now can be available now. Yes, yeah.
Can I ask, sir?
Kaushik, would you like to ask? Yes, you can ask.
Which schools are popular in Alabama, private or public?
Hari,
So
you're going
Alison and yeah, Lohita, ask clearly the question that you have opted.
Okay, sir. Which schools are popular in your country, public or private?
that is a very, very interesting question. And I think you have to understand some history of the United States of Alabama the United States of America, and the history of certain states to better understand it. So y'all ready for a little small history lesson? So America has a checkered past. America has a past that when you start peeling back the layers, you see that 200 years ago, right? You were still in a space where people owned slaves, right? And that was a differentiator by skin color. And we just actually made Juneteenth a holiday, which is where a group of slaves were actually told that they had been freed a couple of years ago. And it was people at the end of the Civil War going and finding people that were still held against their wills. So if you think about the fact that people owned slaves, and basically white people owned slaves that were of African descent, and then all of a sudden the slaves were freed. Well, that doesn't change mindset. It doesn't change mindset around superiority. And so you then have a gap from the very beginning. And there were long fights around closing that gap. And there were people that benefited, specifically white people, from that gap. And so there were often fights against anything they would do to close that gap. So then we rewind a little bit in history, and in the 60s, 1960s, so I guess that was about 60 years ago, were the civil rights movements. And the civil rights movements were about the fact that, you know, at that time, schools were what were called separate but equal. And all the white kids went to one school and all the black kids went to another school. And all the white kids drank from one water fountain and all the black kids drank from a different water fountain. And leaders such as Martin Luther King Jr. and leaders such as Fred Shuttlesworth came and said, enough's enough, right? This isn't right. And it became what was supposed to be a time of reconciliation. And at the time, schools were desegregated. So they started busing students together to make what was called integrated public schools, right? And then laws came around what it meant to have integrated schools. And so people have a perception that that happened, and people have a mindset that that happened. But in different states or different laws and different rules about how kids get to school. So in the state of Alabama, there are school systems which have blossomed in multiple cities. And so in the city of Birmingham and the surrounding areas, we live in counties. We live in a county called Jefferson County. The predominant city is Birmingham, but there's multiple what's called suburb, which are little cities around. In this one little county of about 1 million people, there are 11 different school districts, and each school district has multiple schools. And what has happened is that your wealth and your ownership of property determines the level of quality of the school you're in. So if you live in a wealthy area, your schools are up to date, clean, well funded, and everybody in the wealthy area goes to those public schools because they are very, very good public schools. If you live in an area of poverty, your schools tend to not be funded as well and tend not to have all of the advantages of the schools of wealth, right? So then those people are left with struggles, and many cannot afford other options. If you tend to live in the urban area but have like a pocket of wealth in that area, but you would not send your kids to the public schools, you send your kids to the private schools. So a lot about what is popular is based on finances. And your zip code in many ways, and your zip code is the last part of your address. So your zip code and where you live a lot of times determines who you go to school with, what they look like, and the quality of the schools. And so in America, you have public schools, you have private schools, and then you have what are called charter schools. And the charter schools are public schools that are privately funded through investors, right? To try to close that gap. But America's big hidden secret is that gap that has never closed between people of color and white people, and people of wealth and people of poverty. And the big question is, right, where do we ever create an equitable society when that gap still exists? And I can't simply answer a question about what type of schools do people go to, public or private. That should have been a one answer question. And it's a very, very complicated question based on years and years and years of ugly history.
Yeah, we do understand. We do understand the long history. So yes, next, anyone else? Anyone else?
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, I will ask one question.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Who was your source of inspiration when childhood?
So Vedasri, you have to ask clearly because I don't know exactly, maybe the problem with your network connectivity. So you have to ask clearly. Ask
Who
clearly.
was your source of inspiration? Who was your source of inspiration when you were a child?
Who was my source of inspiration?
Yeah.
You know, I was lucky and have been surrounded by really, really great people in my family and really great people in my community, right? I am not someone that can say that this one person was my source of inspiration. I tend to find inspiration from people around me on a daily basis, right? There are people on a daily basis that overcome challenges that I'm not sure wouldn't just put me down, right? In the beginning, my parents were my inspirations. My mother had a PhD in psychology. And so if you think about the fact that I was born in the 1970s, I was born to a mother with a PhD, which was not common in the 1970s. I was born to a father who had a PhD in biophysics and an MD. So they were very, very well educated. I saw them go to work early in the morning, and I saw them get home, and I saw them work some more. So from a very young age, it was put in my head that what it means to work is to roll up your sleeves and work, right? So I have never been a clock puncher. I have always known that you do what you do to get the job done and you rise to the challenge. When I was teaching, my students were the inspiration to me. I watched my students, I taught in an area of poverty. I watched my students deal with challenges and overcome challenges and go above and beyond. I once taught a Saturday class that was outside of the community I taught in, and I had a student get up at 6 in the morning to catch the different system of buses to get down to my 8 o'clock class. And he had been traveling to get to the class before I was even out of bed. And to me, that was an inspiration because he continued to persevere and not let excuses get in the way of his excellence. And I wondered, could I do the same? And right now, one of my inspirations that I fight for is my son. My son is adopted. We adopted my son when he was 2 days old. I was in the hospital when he was born. But my son is biracial. He's a child of color. And he is in a school that is predominantly white. And I've also seen the data of what happens in our school systems to students of color sometimes. So I fight regularly to make sure that everybody is checking their biases at the door, to make sure that they don't think that he is limited by the color of his skin. Just like none of you are limited by the color of your skin, the state of your family, or your gender. It is so exciting for me to see so many females on this call just bubbling and smiling. And it makes my heart warm because I love to see women excelling, because there was a long time in our history where women were not given the same opportunity as men. And so knowing that y'all are there to break that glass ceiling, right? This year was a big year in America. Kamala Harris was our very first female vice president, right? And so that was a time where we see yet one more glass ceiling getting shattered. And y'all are the ones that are going to take this glass ceiling to a level we've never seen before. Your generation is the one that's going to just break it in two. And I am so excited to see y'all being the leaders of your country, right? That when I am old and retired, y'all will be leading your country. And that is exciting to me, right? That is exciting to me to know that the possibilities that stand in front of you, because with the internet, nobody can deny you an education. With the internet, nobody can deny you learning. All of you talked about watching TV. You're watching TV to learn English, right? You can watch videos to learn English. Nobody can stop y'all these days. You have every bit of knowledge at your fingertips, and you are unstoppable. And that is what is so amazing at this point in time. At this point in time, you can be anything you want to be, and there's stuff to teach you online how to be that. So you are not at the whim of somebody else to determine who you're going to be and how far you're going to go, right? For too long, other people have gotten to decide what your limit is, and that's no longer the case. Because what we see young women like you doing is going, don't worry about it. You don't have to hire me. I'm going to start my own company. And people are building companies and solving problems, right? Look around you. What are the problems in your community? What can you learn to do to solve those problems? How do you create solutions for those problems? And there's no limit.
Yeah. So, Alison, we have actually in this session 2 minutes time is left. This is a free Zoom session. So, I request you to reconnect again so that we can continue the proceedings. Yeah, and because our guest Ganapati Garu, I think he's going to leave this session maybe within 10 minutes because he has some busy schedule with another program, and he's going to sing us maybe two ballads. So once we come back, so Ganapati Garu, I think we have only hardly 1 minute time is left in this Zoom session. I request you to reconnect again one more time.
To the same
So
link.
yeah, same link with the same link so that we can continue the proceedings and we start the proceedings with you because you are going to leave the session and to take part in some other session. So we will join you and within a seconds. Okay.